Timothy Tong grilled again over lavish ICAC hospitality spending. China posts stronger than expected third-quarter GDP growth, and terrorism fears in Uganda following the Nairobi mall assault.
Good evening. Former ICAC Commissioner Timothy Tong was again grilled by lawmakers today over lavish hospitality spending when he headed the anti-graft body. Despite inconsistencies in previous statements, Tong insisted he has always told the truth. The LegCo Public Accounts Committee now plans to submit a report on its investigation at the end of next month. Rani Samtani has more.
The former ICAC chief appeared at the LegCo committee for the 5th time to explain the anti-corruption body's lavish spending while he was in office.
During my time, there are areas in which I made mistakes in the administrative areas concerning entertainment, duty visits, gifts. But I am a man of integrity.
During the meeting, members accused Tong of violating internal regulations and derelicting his duties. Lawmakers questioned the reasoning behind spending on fish balls and beef briskets as gifts. Tong replied it was a form of reciprocation.
They gave us fruit and lychees. They were local products. So, therefore, in order to give them a gift, we also give them some local gifts.
You said
that the beef briskets and fish balls were given in exchange for the lychees received. But let's not forget that reciprocation of gifts is exactly the reason corruption occurs.
Lawmakers became frustrated with Tong as his answers at times appeared inconsistent. When asked about the purpose of certain trips, Tong admitted that a visit to Yunnan in 2009 had more to do with pleasure than business. And in 2008, when visiting Beijing and Guangxi, then Chief Executive Donald Tsang asked him to shorten his trip because of work at the ICAC here at home. Tong cut short his visit by 1 day, and that was criticized by lawmakers. In the end, Tong admitted that he had made a lot of mistakes, but refused to take responsibility regarding overspending on liquor. Lawmakers refused to comment on whether they believe Tong had lied at the hearings, but based on his answers, they will formulate a view in the Public Accounts Committee's final report. The committee plans to submit its report to the full council by the end of November at the latest. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Government consultation paper on Hong Kong's population policy will be released next week. Sources say there are proposals to give mainland university graduates more time to look for a job here. Evelina Leung has the story.
Mr. Jiang moved to Hong Kong from Hebei province 2 years ago. He received a master's degree from the Polytechnic University's Building Service Engineering program last year and is currently working as an engineer in a local company. Jiang says his colleagues are very nice to him, but it seems like he just can't fit in. They seem to accept me, but deep down this is not true because of our cultural differences and because of the problems between locals and mainlanders, he said. Jiang said he tries his best to mind his own business and not to create trouble for his co-workers. From 2001 to 2010, the number of mainland students studying in Hong Kong jumped by more than 10 times. And starting from 2008, non-local students have been allowed to stay in Hong Kong for a year after graduation to look for work. Initially, about 1,000 students took up the offer each year, and that number increased to 4,000 a year within 4 years. In 2011, close to half of all the mainland university graduates in Hong Kong managed to find a job within a year. According to the government, there will be a shortage of university graduates in Hong Kong after 2018. This is one of the issues the Steering Committee on Population Policy is expected to address in its consultation paper to be unveiled next week. According to sources, the committee will suggest extending the time allowed for mainland graduates to look for work from 1 year to 2 years. Is this a good idea? Professor Choi Yat-hong of Polytechnic University said giving mainland graduates one more year in Hong Kong will allow them to adapt better to the environment. However, he worries this will increase competition in the labor market, which will put local employees at a disadvantage. There are currently more than 7 million people living in Hong Kong. And according to the government, the population is expected to further increase by 1.4 million over the next 30 years, with immigrants making up a large percentage of that group. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The mainland economy grew by a better than expected 7.8% in the third quarter, boosting stock markets around the region. As Alan Booknear reports, the growth eases pressure on Beijing for more stimulus spending.
The higher government spending on factories and other fixed assets contributed to more than half of the GDP growth. Sheng Liun of the National Bureau of Statistics said the fundamentals in the Chinese economy are now better, so the focus can shift to growth based on improving domestic consumption. The leadership wants China's economy to be more domestically driven rather than relying heavily on exports. Because of the global economic slowdown, there was an abrupt drop in global demand for Chinese goods. This prompted the government to temporarily backtrack on its efforts to stimulate domestic spending. It plowed money into railway construction and other public works. The 7.8% growth was up from 7.5% in the second quarter, the lowest quarterly growth in 2 decades. But analysts doubt the momentum can be sustained.
The base is now very big. It is already the second largest economy. It is natural for the growth rate to slow down. And secondly, the China's economic reform will shift the focus to domestic consumption, and that means less reliance on exports and fixed asset investments. That will also drive the growth rate a bit lower.
The GDP numbers boosted stocks across the region. Here in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index closed up 245 points, or more than 1%, at 23,340. Mainland leaders are due to meet in November to craft an economic development blueprint. Reform advocates are hoping it will include market opening and more support for private entrepreneurs. Alan Booknear, TVB News.
A day after Japan's Prime Minister made an offering to the controversial Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo, his Internal Affairs and Communications Minister and a group of lawmakers visited the memorial today. Yoshitaka Shindo was among more than 150 other politicians who paid their respects at the war shrine during the annual autumn festival. The shrine honors Japan's war dead, including Class A war criminals. Past visits by previous Japanese leaders have outraged China and South Korea, who suffered greatly under Japan's militarist expansion and occupations across Asia. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing had asked Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe not to visit the shrine out of respect for its war victims.
The World Health Organization's cancer agency has declared air pollution causes lung cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer said the air we breathe is laced with cancer-causing substances. Data showed 223,000 deaths from lung cancer worldwide in 2010 resulted from air pollution. The agency said there was also convincing evidence pollution increases the risk of bladder cancer.
We can't do very much to change the air we breathe, and we're all responsible for it. And so I think it's important to make the point that this really needs collective public health action to solve the problem.
U.S. whistleblower Edward Snowden insisted he did not take any secret National Security Agency documents to Russia. In an interview with the New York Times, Snowden also said intelligence officials in China or Russia could not get access to the documents he had obtained before leaving the U.S. He said he handed over all those documents to journalists during his stay in Hong Kong earlier this year. Snowden then made his way to Russia, where he was later granted asylum. He faces espionage charges in the U.S. Security forces are on high alert in Uganda following warnings of an imminent terror attack similar to the one in a shopping mall in neighbouring Kenya last month. The increased measures come as a new report says one of the suspects in the Kenya attack is a 23-year-old Norwegian. James Aitken with the latest.
The attack at the upscale Westgate Mall in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, on September 21st was shocking and brutal. Newly released security video reveals gunmen crossing the mall car park as shoppers fall to the ground to avoid gunfire. Police said the attackers used guns and rocket-propelled grenades when they entered the mall. In another chilling shot, shoppers are seen scrambling for cover as the gunmen methodically murdered bystanders. At one point, the attackers are seen praying after gunning down the shoppers. In the 4-day siege that followed, at least 67 people died in the carnage. Investigators sifting through the rubble of a collapsed section of the complex have recently recovered some body parts as well as various weapons and ammunition they believe belong to the attackers. Kenya has accused the Somali group Al-Shabaab of executing the attack. Investigators believe it was reprisal after Kenya sent troops to Somalia to help the UN-backed government seize one of Somalia's southern port cities from the militants. Kenyan police are interrogating more than 40 suspects, although it's still not clear exactly how many attackers there were. Meanwhile, an unconfirmed BBC report indicates one of the men being investigated is Hassan Abdi Dahulo, a 23-year-old Norwegian citizen of Somali origin. Dahulo and his family reportedly arrived in Norway as refugees in 1999. In neighboring Uganda, which also has troops in Somalia, U.S. intelligence reports of a possible terror threat have prompted escalated security, while Kenyan authorities have also beefed up security in Nairobi ahead of a national celebration planned for Sunday. James Aitken, TVB News.
Saudi Arabia and 4 other countries have been elected to seats on the United Nations Security Council, but within hours the Saudis rejected the seat, saying the body is incapable of resolving world conflicts. Seats on the Security Council are usually coveted because they give countries stronger voices in matters concerning international peace and security. The 5 permanent members, China, the United States, Russia, Britain and France, are joined by 10 countries that serve 2-year terms. In a statement today, Saudi Arabia said the Security Council has been unable to resolve the Mideast conflict for decades. It also cited the failure of the body to stop the Syrian regime of President Bashar al-Assad from killing its own people while facing no deterrence or punishment. The other 4 countries elected are Chad, Nigeria, Chile and Lithuania.
And still to come in the news. Court setback for former horse trainer Brian Kahn. The Red Sox 1 win away from a trip to the World Series. And Prague like you've never seen it before.